Hello, my name is William R. Palacio. I'm a freelance artist and a children's book illustrator. And today, this is part one of my tutorial on how I digitally paint my cartoons in Corel Painter. I'm using Corel Painter 11. I have not upgraded myself to Corel Painter 12 because I think the upgrade price is still a little steep, and what you get for the upgrade is that not that great of a value. So we're going to go ahead here, and it should be pretty similar in most versions of the program. And so we're going to get started here, and what we're going to do first is when you open your image, and how this image is set up is my line work is on one layer, and everything else is pretty much transparent. And if you don't know how to do that, go ahead and look at my last video, which shows how to go ahead and get your line work prepared using Adobe Photoshop to go ahead and be painted on in Corel Painter. If you don't have Adobe Photoshop, what you can do is after you get your scan in and you get it to the right darkness, you can go ahead and put your line work on the top layer and go to the layer mode of multiply, and it'll work similar. It's not as great, but it'll work for you. So the first thing what we want to do is when we open this file from Photoshop, it puts in an extra layer, this layer 1, which has a solid white background, and I want to go ahead and delete that, and then hit this new layer icon at the bottom, and that puts a new transparent layer right above the blank canvas and my line work. Now, as you can see here on the side, there's this button here, and that is this rainbow looking button here. That is the color management setting, and I find that it's best to go ahead and turn that off if you want to get accurate colors when you open this again in Adobe Photoshop or whatever program you're using to go ahead and get your images ready for print or for the web. I don't know why, but the color management just with the Corel Painter has never really worked great for me. You may have better luck with it, but for me, it doesn't work. So I'm going to click that off, and when you can see automatically that the line work turns from kind of an odd green to the black that it's supposed to be. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and expand this to fit the entire window. Now, when I'm digitally painting, the first thing I want to do is paint the background, because the background is going to determine how all the other colors in the painting are going to look. And you can see I got my little guy here. My first video tutorial was on how to make a brush, and so I decided to make this little blacksmith guy here, and he's making a brush, and so the light source is going to be like a bright yellow, and so I'm going to want to actually have kind of the opposite of that, and so I'm going to want to have a bluish purple, kind of a pale background, so that the yellow light really stands out on this painting. And so what we're going to go ahead and do, and I always do this first, is paint the background first, because that's going to help you decide what colors you're going to use in the actual painting itself. And so I'm going to come down here and get kind of a dark purplish blue color, and then I'm going to go ahead and go in here and expand my brush and go ahead and slap that down. And this is sort of going to be kind of like a spot illustration, and so I don't want to go all the way to the edges of the paper. I want to see those little lines there. This brush I'm using, you can also find that in another one of my tutorials where I show you how to make my favorite brushes, and you can go ahead and make that brush if you follow that tutorial. And that's the brush I'm using right now. The paper I'm using came with a book that by Don Siegmiller, and if you look him up, Don Siegmiller, he has a book on painting in Corel Painter, and he has some great brushes and some great papers. And the paper I'm using came with that book. And if I launch my palette here, you can see that it's thick, scratchy sketch paper. I just really like this paper. But the basic papers that come with the program, any texture you like, it'll be fine. You just got to find a texture for the paper you like, and And like I said before, I like that texture to come out. Now I'm starting with a very small texture here, and so what I'm going to want to do is go back into my paper palette. When I put my secondary color on it that's going to be light, I want my my texture to be a little bigger. That way it's going to show some of that background color through a little bit. So when I'm picking colors, we started out here in the dark area. And what you want to do is when you start out, usually you're going to pick a mid-tone with a background. I usually pick the darker color first. But when you're painting something, you try to go for the mid-tone. Then I go to the darker tone and the lighter tone. Now how I pick colors in Corel Painter is, since I started with the dark blue, I want to go towards yellow as I'm lightening everything up. So I'm going to move the main color here more up towards the purple, and then I'm going to move this color up. So what I'm doing is I'm getting more saturated, but I'm also getting a little bit lighter. So I move towards yellow, and I'm increasing the saturation, but I'm also getting lighter. So now that I have that, my light source is going to be coming from this fire here. So we're going to start putting in some color that's lighter coming this direction, because it's going to be starting to get lighter from this fire here. Now I'm going to continue on going again towards yellow, because I'm getting lighter, and the color of the light is going to be like a yellowish color. And now I'm going to get even more saturated and a little lighter, and then I'm going to put that color on there. And you can see that you can really see the texture coming out, and that's what I like about Corel Painter and this brush. Again, go more towards the yellow. We're still going towards yellow. We started at blue, we're going towards yellow, and a little more saturated and a little lighter. Continue on. I'm going to go all the way up into orange here because we're talking about fire here. And again, and then all the way. That's about as yellow as I'm going to get. Okay. The next brush I like to use is the Grainy Water 30. You can find it right in your blenders. Grainy Water 30. And I got one here that I've just made a few tweaks to that I like. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and blend these colors in. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq, and I'm just pressing very lightly. You can also use Intuos 4, Intuos 3. Any Wacom product is pretty darn good, and whatever you're using is fine. It's just whatever you have. And so what I'm doing here is using that grainy water brush to just blend the background in. So got the background in. I'm going to go ahead and double click that. Right background. Hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer. And I think we're getting towards the end of my time here. So we're going to go ahead and call this video ended for now. And my next video, we'll go ahead and start blocking in the colors. Thank you.